On Coffee Time with Peter Gomez on Monday, the 1st of September 2025, is retired military officer and diplomat, Lieutenant Colonel Sheriff Samsudeen Sarr. He's with us this morning to talk about the United Nations General Assembly, the upcoming 80th version of this huge global event, but also to talk about 1994, that military coup that toppled this country's first democratically elected president, the late Alhaji Sadauda Kairaba Jawara, and his government, and brought in the dictatorship of Yahya Abdul Jamus Junkung, etc., etc., Jammeh. Oh, you see, everybody has an addition. He was your man, though. Just going back, what made him castigate you publicly on account of your book? What didn't he like about the book? Did he even read the book before castigating you?
Yeah, because I think he was taken by surprise. While Manga and Fai really told me that he invited me, to come and witness the celebration, I think he was taken by surprise by the statement from Keba Diba, that I was in the country. Because, even before I arrived, all the bad things that I've been writing about him were published by Freedom newspaper. And the story was, this is an entrapment. Sam will not survive when he goes to Gambia. And even when I arrived, the day I arrived, there was a publication all over America that there are checkpoints all over looking for me.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And people believe it. I went home. So, I think he was taken by surprise. And he, as impulsive as he is, he said he went into this rampage. Because by then, they have started saying that, Sarr said all his book is about lies, lies, lies.
Oh.
Yes, they have started saying that, which is not true. Just like
that, you were denouncing your own book. Some of the facts you put in the book, you are now, walking back.
No,
so to speak.
No, because that's what I was talking to you about earlier. That when I started, when they know that I'm going to reconcile with Jammeh, Panderi gave me, the late Panderi, he gave me an interview and asked me, with all the bad things with Jammeh, you think Jammeh will ever forgive you? I said, well, I'm going to take the risk. I'm going to go there. He said, but you said so many bad... He didn't even read the book. And I said, yeah, but these books are like that. I was very emotional when I was writing it, and there were so many things I missed, which if I were to write the book, I will rewrite them. I will rewrite it differently.
Things, for instance, like what? There was one classic example that you quoted.
Yes, for instance...
when you arrived at Radio Gambia for the announcement.
For the announcement, I arrived at Radio Gambia, and everybody was running out. And I asked them, who is in charge? They told me, she's upstairs. Yes. And I walked upstairs, and I found this nice, petite lady welcomed me in her office, very calm and collected. And I said, good morning, what is your name? Mrs. Jallo. I didn't know that woman is not Mrs. Jallo, but
Mrs. Sarah Gray Johnson.
Mrs. Sarah Gray Johnson. I didn't know about it until after the publication of the book. I would have corrected that. Number two, even if you read the dedication of this book, when I was doing the dedication, these are the names of... I gave it to the 11 November casualties, the soldiers. And here they are. Lieutenant Basiru Baro, Apply Fal, Jibril Say, Bakari Mane, Nyancho, Jammeh, Dabo, Officer Kenneth Silla, Surgeon Apply Ba, Chopping, they call him, Ibrahim M. Sise, and Basiru Kamara. I forgot one guy, Fafa Nyang. He should have been the 11th. I did not write it. So those are the things. I also was talking about my interaction with the late Ahmed Bensouda at State House, who was a Jarbat to Jawara. And I said, instead of Ahmed Bensouda, I put Philip Bensouda until after the publication. There was another special quotation I made reference to the late Usman Saleh, Ambassador Usman Saleh, because when I arrived in the U.S., I was trying to get somebody to write me an affidavit for my interview at with the immigration, and nobody was willing. And, so I visited Washington, D.C., and there I had the opportunity to go to his house.
OG.
Ambassador Usman Saleh, yes. And he was curious to know what happened, because I was a witness. And he was like, so don't you think the Americans had a hand? Because I am convinced the Americans had a hand in this. And I told him, no, the Americans had no hand in this coup d'etat, because that was the conventional wisdom in Washington, D.C., that the Americans played a part in it. I told him everything that the Americans did to even change the dynamics of the situation. So, and...
change the dynamics as in to reverse the coup?
Yes.
And bring Jawara back to power?
Yes.
Ah.
They did a tremendous job, and it was almost successful. Trust me.
You should tell us about that.
I will tell you about that. When we go to the order that when we start the whole actual show. Mm-hmm. And then, he was so happy. When I left, I said, when I was leaving, I asked him, can you write me an affidavit? Because they said, somebody from the PPP government should write me an affidavit. And he wrote me a brilliant one. And thanks to that affidavit, I was able to get my asylum, although a comprehensive investigation was done in my case. It took a whole year, very unprecedented, for the immigrations to endorse my asylum application, which should have taken only 2 weeks.
Yeah, but you were no different, ordinary person from the Gambia. You were head of the
army.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody was selling this idea, even Gambians, to the immigration, that I was a killer. I was a bad guy. I was this, I was that. And they went through it somehow.
When you never killed, actually.
I never killed anybody. I never arrested anybody. I never, if I did not help people, I did not hurt them. Trust me. If you ask the army, they will tell you that. I was always helping people instead of hurting them. So, but, when I was writing the book, in developing the story, I mentioned that this was the conventional wisdom in Washington, that the Americans had a hand in the coup. Even the ambassador, Usman Saleh, was with that impression, but I talked him out of it. When that guy read the book, he called me, he couldn't understand that. He flipped on me. Why did you mention my name? Why did you? You should have asked my permission. And I apologized. I regretted that. If I were to, that is why when I was writing testimony, I removed that side of it. Because, that guy stopped talking to me until he died.
Oh.
That's how he despised what I did. So, there were so many corrections. Even Jammeh's speech, I didn't get it in full detail until after the book was published. Night of the day of the coup d'etat, after our first meeting, Edward Singate that night went to Radio FM, George Christensen.
Radio 1 FM.
Thank you. To announce the name of 4 of the council members, Jammeh, himself, Sana Sabali, and Haidara. I did not know that he went that night because there was chaos that night. Senegal was going to intervene that night.
Again?
Militarily, they were at the border waiting for orders from Abdou Diouf.
But what you hear is Abdou Diouf simply took Jawara into an empty room and sat in there.
That is why...
In order to allow this coup to take place as retribution for 1981.
No.
I'm saying this is the version...
That's not true. That's not true. That's why I was not happy with the TRRC. I would have loved to come and explain what exactly happened that night. Senegal had amassed all their troops around the border, ready to invade the Gambia that night. And Singate, Sabali, and Haidara, playing, we are the, Rambos of the system, went to meet Mokhtar Kebe, who was the ambassador of Senegal, and the guy refused to meet them. He said he's not going to meet second lieutenants. Senegal second lieutenants are nothing. And they came, everybody was nervous. And I told Cham, let's go and talk to this guy. I left with Captain Cham, and we went there when the guard was like, no, you're not coming in, until we turn and say, we are captains. If something goes wrong, you will be held responsible, because there is a crisis looming and it can trigger serious conflict between Senegal and the Gambia. And when he realized that we are adults, we are sober, he went in and talked to Kebe. Then Kebe invited us inside. And he told us, look, yes, we are going to intervene, because we are told that it's the ordinary soldiers, the young, youth, hopeless soldiers who took over the country, and you are destroying it and looting it. And we say, no, it's not like that. We are captains and we are part of it. And he gave us one of his agents, me and Mama Cham, and we drove across from his residence in Cape Point through Atlantic Road, Kairaba Avenue, Westfield, to Banjul, and back to his residence to confirm that nothing chaotic was happening in this country.
No looting was going on.
No looting. Everything was tranquil. This was about 9, 10 o'clock at night. In our presence, he called Abdou Diouf to tell him it's not as bad as it's been told. Stand down. And that is what stopped the intervention of Senegal that night. People don't know that. I thought Captain Mama Cham, who was a general now, was going to enlighten everybody about this. But he brought a different story, completely different story.
At the TRRs?
Yes. Yeah, if you listen to it, you will hear what he said. But that is really out of place. That was not the fact. So, okay. Are we going back to start, or this is flowing good?
This is flowing. No, we want to know the fate of Jawara. I mean, because, again, as I said, the version that was out there that I picked up, because when the coup was happening, I was thousands of miles away. Yes. My only connection with the coup was when, after trying for, the first 2 to 3 days, when telephone lines were not getting through, because I was with German radio at the time. Yes. I eventually got through to Haidara, and that was my first contact.
Probably I was then in mile 2. Yeah, because
that early.
Yeah, because it
was just a few days.
Yeah. We were arrested on the 27th. The coup happened on the 22nd.
I must have. This is before you were arrested. But I spoke to Haidara, and that was my only connection with in 1994.
Yeah, because I spoke to Omar Faye, who was in America, Ibu Jallo.
And again, as I said, the version that was out there was when Jawara turned to Senegal again, No. Do what they did for him in 1981, as a retribution for quote-unquote, betraying him. Abdou Diouf just put him in an empty room, no telephone, nothing, no means of communicating.
But that is after we convinced Abdou Diouf that we were responsible adults who took over the country, and not the rank and file story they gave him before we talked to Kebe. Because Kebe that day gave us telephone number of Abdou Diouf. This was Friday night, and we spoke to Abdou Diouf Sunday evening.
Oh, wow. Who spoke to him directly?
Jammeh.
Okay.
I make the call because I was given the number. Somebody received it and said, that's President Diouf. And I gave it to Jammeh, and Jammeh spoke to him in my presence. In my book, I have explained how diplomatic Jammeh was that day.
I was going to ask, in what demeanor he was, because you tend to have this attitude that Jammeh is so anti-Senegalese. He's always arrogant at
No. Jammeh was so diplomatic. For the first time, I saw something very admirable in him, the way he spoke to Abdou Diouf, promising him that everything that used to block Senegalo-Gambia cooperation will be restored, including even the Senegambia Confederation.
Really?
Yes. That all the problems in this country...
This man who eventually would say Senegal is trying to colonize us and we will never be a province of Senegal.
All the problems of this country were caused by Sadauda. He was the one who was encouraging cross-border fraud, so many things. That be assured that this government is going to be like a Senegambia government. He spoke so well. And when Abdou Diouf took the phone, he also spoke well. Jammeh was so happy when he was dancing. That was how happy he was, that day in his office. I was there with him. I was with Jammeh like this because Jammeh, we were best friends.
Oh.
Yes, in the army.
Before the coup?
Yes. You know why?
No.
Because when Jammeh moved from the gendarmerie and came, he was like, nobody took him seriously because he was a police officer from the gendarmerie. They were treated like police officers. They were not infantry soldiers. They were not fighters. They were not. So when they moved over to the army, they were laughing at him because the Nigerians brought him in as part of the military police unit. And, but when he was leaving the gendarmerie, everybody was telling us, oh, you carrying a dead weight. This guy is carrying rank of an officer, but he has never even gone for a course. Everybody laughed at him because every second lieutenant in the army had done a course. However, secondary the course is, you have attended a course before you are given the second lieutenant rank.
And you're saying Jammeh didn't?
Jammeh didn't. He came with a full lieutenant rank and didn't. So at one time...
So all what was written about him, especially, in the Independence Anniversary program, he did this, mastered this, he was, best this, best that, that was all made up?
Most of them were. But what was important is that when, at some point, the Nigerians decided to send him for a course in Britain. Mm-hmm. But that was an NCO course.
Non-commissioned officers course.
Yes. And he accepted it because he really wanted to get this stigma out of him that he has never attended a course. Then, and I spoke to him. I called him to my office. I was then the liaison officer at the Ministry of Defense. Mm-hmm. And I told him, look, don't worry. I'm going to talk to James Knight. He is my friend.
Who's James Knight?
James Knight was the political officer at the U.S. Embassy, who coordinated, in fact, the exercise of 1994 between the Americans and the Gambia Army, the American Marines and the Gambia Army. And I was the liaison officer. In fact, I even sent MB Sarr, Commander MB Sarr of the Gambia Navy, to America to escort the ship to bring it to the Gambia 3 months before they arrived. So, because we had done the same exercise in 2000. So I spoke to James Knight, anyway, coming back to this issue, and I told him, can you please get us a military police basic course for officers? He said, give me a week. The next week, he sent me a course. And I called Jammeh and told him, you got a course to America, Alabama, for military police basic course, which is basic. He was so happy. I swear to God, he promised me, if I come, Sam, I will give you a bull. I said, no, I don't need a bull. Just bring me cologne, So I even remember...
Perfume, right?
Perfume, yeah. After the coup, I will teach him, where's my cologne? I have it, I will give it to you. Until they took me to Mile 2.
So let's go back. Again, just to clear the air about American connection with the coup.
Yes, with the coup. Yes, I started with in my book, the second book, which is Testimony. I started the story, chapter 1, day of the coup. What happened? That I gave a background of how we were supposed to hold an exercise with the American Marines, which we have done in 2000. And that is why 3 to 4 days before the event, I wrote a press release to Radio Gambia, which was announced every day that there is going to be a military exercise between the Gambia Army and the American Marines. If you see soldiers where the climax of the exercise was going to take place around the Denton Bridge, consider it just ordinary, no alarm. It's just exercise. I sent that to Radio Gambia. So that was going on. On the 21st of July, the vessel arrived at USS Lamo County. I was there with Bunjak, American Ambassador Andrew Winter, James Knight, and the military attaché of Senegal, Gambia, and Guinea-Bissau, Major McLean. We went to the ship and they organized a reception for us. And before we left, even that evening, they floated about 3 amphibious tanks that they were supposed to test. This was the first time they are going on the ground to test them as new state-of-the-art mechanized weapons. They just float in the sea, and could run on land just beautifully.
Yeah.
So I was so impressed. They say, well, don't worry, tomorrow during the exercise you'll see how effective these weapons are. Then we went home. The following day I was supposed to, in fact, we had a card for the program card for every event that was going to happen on the 22nd. And first thing in the morning, I went to the ports with Winters, Knight, and McLean to escort Winters and to escort the team to come and meet the Vice President, Sehu Sabali, at State House. Then, from there, we went there and escorted Captain Buchard. He's a black guy even, the commander of the Marine unit, the Marine Company, Mechanized Marine Company, and few others that I didn't remember. So we were going to go to Sabali. From Sabali...
To Sabali, the Vice President, because the President was in the UK.
No, he was here that day. Jawara came the previous night also.
Okay.
Jawara arrived the previous night.
Okay.
But he was
that was in 81 that he was attending.
He was the Minister of Defense.
Okay.
So the protocol, according to our schedule that day, was to visit him, talk about reception, receiving, and so on, and then we moved to the Army headquarters. And then from the Army headquarters, we go to the Marine unit to hand over a patrol boat, new patrol boat, built for Gambia, Senegal, and Guinea-Bissau. And ours was called Bolong Kanta, the beautiful, with weapons and everything. That was going to be the handing over ceremony. After that, and there was going to be their band was going to perform at McCarthy Square, and everything was put in place. Hey, soon after we arrived at the State House, this was around 8 o'clock, I saw a very unusual scenario, a very unusual, environment, because I used to work there as liaison officer. I saw soldiers all over in combat uniform with weapons, and all that. And I was like, something is not right. But I thought probably there was going to be a new Chinese ambassador. We had just broken from Taiwan. A new Chinese ambassador from mainland China was to hand over his credentials to Sadauda that morning. So I saw the quarter guard waiting for that ceremony. But while we were going up on the stairs, Captain Kasama, Sadauda's ADC, called me and said, "Hey, Captain Sar, can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Don't you see?" He was like, "No, you gotta come." I could see the urgency because he knows that I was escorting dignitaries, and insisting for me to go and talk to him must have been very important. So I left them and asked for an excuse, and I walked to Kasama and I asked him, "What happened?" He goes, "Oh, we just got information that the soldiers in Yundum have broken into the armory, armed themselves, and are coming to Banjul to organize a coup." Peter, I was like, you hit me with a rock.
You took him seriously?
Yes.
You didn't doubt him at all?
No, I did not. He could not have, said. I was like, "Why? What are you talking about?" He said, "Yes, that's what happened." I say, okay, give me a minute. I am going upstairs with these guys. I'm coming back right away. And then I ran and caught up with these guys. We went, just like we were entering, I found Mr. Bunjak, the permanent secretary, Minister of Defense, at the door. The door was ajar. And then we walked in, and Ambassador Winters went in with these guys. And I turned around to Bunjak and said, oh, did you hear? Say, yeah, we heard. It's all right. We'll handle it.
Oh.
I said, no. I mean, like, this is serious. Then, you know, like, Ambassador Winter, probably he already knew, because it immediately caught his attention. And he turned around and said, oh, what is going on? You know, if there is any emergency, we can go back to the vessel until you settle it. That was a statement from nowhere. So I felt probably he heard about it or knew about it.
Well, American intelligence is more sophisticated than Gambian intelligence.
Yes. But then, you know, like, Bukhari, they were about to leave. And then Sehu Sabali insisted, no, gentlemen, come in and sit down. We might need your help. These were his exact words, you know.
Which turned out to be prophetic.
Yeah, you know, we might need your help. And they sat down, and I went downstairs. And Kasama was still there waiting for me. I said, Kasama, if it is true that the GNA soldiers have broken into that armory and been at Yundum before I came here and knowing the kind of weapons over there, the state guard cannot resist them. So my best advice is, I am going to talk to the Marine unit. And I'm not even, you know, like, I was at the State House, but the state guard was not very friendly to me. I did not get along very well with them. So I told him, I'm going to the Marine unit to see whether we can use their heavy weapons, because they have weapons that can match the weapons at Yundum Barracks. He said, okay, go ahead. Then I drove to Marine unit, and I found Major Saho, Antuman Saho there, but he was not comfortable with talking to his men even. He's like, Sam, do you trust these guys? And, you know, I don't think we have those kind of weapons. I told him, look, if we dismount your weapons in your patrol boats and mount them on a vehicle, we can stop anybody coming into Banjul. But he was not very keen about it. And I also knew that the Americans who came the previous day brought us 250 caliber machine guns, which can match any machine gun at Yundum at that time. But like I said, he was like, hey, son, let's just wait. And then, you know, like, people were calling from everywhere, asking what is going on, and he was explaining. Then I said, I'm not staying here. I can't be locked up in Banjul while a conflict is out there. I am going to see what's going to happen. Then I started my car, took Bone Road. When I came to the main highway and realized there was no vehicle, you're talking about 9, 10 o'clock, no vehicle on the highway between Banjul and Denton Bridge. No vehicle. And I saw, no, this is something going on. And I drove straight to the bridge and parked just before the Banjul side of the bridge.
Yes.
And I walked towards the bridge, and there I found Chongan, Pambai, and about 5 soldiers at prone position with their guns, you know, preparing to fight. I didn't even know that before I arrived, Chongan had already fired warning shots to the soldiers, telling them, if you try to cross, you are dead, you know. So I came and I told him, what is going on? Sam, when Sona Chisenkai, he every day demonstrates. And I go, Chongs, look, I need to talk to these guys. No, there's no talking. Nobody is crossing. I said, Chongs, if it is true that these guys got into that armory and took the weapons, I know they are, you can't stop them with these men. You know, most of his men had AK-47. There are very few, about 6 of them. And, you know, all they had was those big jujus around them. I said, you think this is going to save you, buddy? I said,
I think we need to suspend it there in English. Right. so that anybody who wants to read further on can get the book Testimony.
Can get the book.
Still available here at West Coast Radio.
Yes.